Sports Talk with Craig Ballard, your boy Craig Ballard right here. Fellow NBA fans, stand up. I know you're as excited as I am that we are going to have a 2011-2012 National Basketball Association season. This segment of Sports Talk with Craig Ballard, you and I will be looking together at some of the unrestricted free agents that are available, hopefully coming to a city near you or a team that you cheer for in the very near future. We know that this 2011 NBA free agency is going to be an absolute frenzy. It's going to be very, very interesting. Now, granted, it doesn't have the names available that what I call the Summer Fun 2010 free agency had in the NBA, where you had names like LeBron James, you had Amari Stoudemire, you had Chris Bosh, you had Carlos Boozer. The list went on and on of big-time names, big-time superstars, all-stars, changing addresses in 2010 in the NBA. 2011, the opportunity is just not there for that kind of movement. The quality, the quantity is absolutely there. I'll use a team like Charlotte as an example right now. The Charlotte Bobcats right now currently have 5 players under contract for this upcoming season, and they're not alone. I don't mean there's other teams out there that have as few players as that, but pretty much every team in the NBA is in a scramble right now to recover from the lockout, get yourself out of lockout mode, put yourself in 2011, 2012, and going forward mode, and a lot of teams with a lot of roster spots up for grabs. Key dates for us here as far as NBA free agency in 2011, December 5th. That's the first day that management can start to openly negotiate with the free agents. And December 9th is a big one, folks. December 9th, there's just going to be a shitload of activity, just a flurry, a frenzy, as that is not only the first day of NBA training camps, that is also the first that you can officially announce or officially sign a free agent to a contract. So there's just going to be such a flurry of activity on that day. It's going to be very, very exciting for us. This segment here, we're going to take a look at some of the unrestricted free agents that are around. And we're just going to look at unrestricted free agents. There are some restricted free agents that will be, definite upgrades to teams around the NBA as well, that will be absolutely looked at by general managers. Guys like Aaron Aflalo in Denver, Jeff Green in Boston, Aaron Brooks in Phoenix. Absolute value guys, there's no doubt about that, and guys that will be sought after. Just for restricted free agents, the team that currently has them has the right to match any offer made from a different team. So a different team can make these players, can make a restricted free agent an offer. Within 7 days, the team that they're currently on has the opportunity to match that offer, which would mean that player stays put. So it's just harder to sign a restricted free agent. That's all. Not at all difficult to sign an unrestricted free agent. And as well, what we also won't have on this list here are guys that are going to be bought out from the amnesty clause. Very, very interesting in the collective bargaining agreement here. There's a new amnesty clause, and if you don't know about that now, you will going forward. Every single team will take advantage of this. It's basically every team can use it once during the 10 years of the collective bargaining agreement, and you can get out from underneath any contract you want. Just flat out release a player, make him an amnesty clause cut, so that contract is no longer on your books. That player will become a type of free agent. You can't say he's quite all the way a free agent, and I'll tell you why. He'll go into a pot of teams where that pot of teams is comprised of teams that are under the salary cap. They'll all get a chance, almost like an eBay auction, to be honest with you. They will all get a chance to bid on that player. The highest bid will get that player. So that's why I say it's not really a type of free agent, because the player's not going to have a say in where he goes. It's more like a trade, because where the player ends up is going to be dictated to the player. And that's going to be very, very interesting. I mean, right away, we'll expect the Baron Davis to be an amnesty cut. How about a Rashard Lewis as well? Could he find himself going that route? So there's absolutely going to be big names that are available through that route. But we don't know who that's going to be just now. For the NBA unrestricted free agents that we know, let's take a look here. Let's start with the defending champions. Let's start out in Dallas, where the Dallas Mavericks currently have 9 players at about $62 million are already under contract for next season. Not among them, 3 very, very interesting free agents. How about Tyson Chandler? How about Caron Butler? And how about Deshaun Stevenson? So let's start with Tyson Chandler here. Tyson Chandler will have a chance to re-up with the Mavs, yes. There is salary cap issues, and once you start getting into the luxury tax, it becomes very, very punitive. But the really punitive part of the new collective bargaining agreement tax doesn't take place for another 3 years. So Mark Cuban and management could theoretically, and I think they'll absolutely look at exploring the opportunity to re-up with Tyson Chandler on a maybe $11-12 million contract for 1 or 2 years. They're certainly not going to want to pay him that kind of money once it's 3-4 times the dollar once you go over the cap. But maybe a short-term deal to have Tyson Chandler return. Re-upping with Caron Butler will be much more difficult. A, 32 years old, B, coming off of an injury. But you got to say, and that's the cons. You've got to say with Caron Butler that there's a pro column here. Absolutely. First of all, he is a pro. He's a pro's pro. Great locker room guy, great teammate, hard worker. There's no doubt about that. And when healthy, I think we would all agree Caron Butler is an extremely dynamic scorer. I mean, I think he'll be on the Toronto Raptor, for example, radar in this offseason. And the other free agent we mentioned coming out of Dallas, Deshaun Stevenson, very, very interesting. Certainly nowhere as good as he thinks he is, absolutely. I mean, we would agree there. But Deshaun Stevenson, a difference maker. This is a guy who's an absolute contributor, lockdown defender who comes off your bench and can shoot the three. I mean, that's an asset in the NBA, folks. And we saw this last year, how he contributed to a championship. He'll be sought after as well. Take a look at another interesting guy for me, a guy like Shane Battier. Talk about a veteran presence that is out there. Talk about a lockdown defender. Shane Battier, great team guy, a great community guy. He's going to be very much sought after. I wouldn't rule out a return to Memphis for Battier, but he's probably looking, in my estimation anyway, at maybe a sign and trade, maybe to a Laker team, maybe to a Miami Heat team, maybe to an Oklahoma City. Oklahoma City could be a fantastic fit for Shane Battier. Probably looking for somewhere that's a little bit closer to a title than perhaps Memphis, all due respect to the Grizzlies. Another big man that is out there that is going to be sought after, how about David West? David West, an all-star in this league, a definite NBA player. He is a scorer, a rebounder. Now, a lot of people are going to, his detractors will say, well, how much of that is a result of how brilliant Chris Paul is? And there's no doubt that that contributes to David West's numbers. Chris Paul, I mean, geez, I may be able to average double digits if Paul was my point guard. I mean, he is that good. He is that special. So yes, David West no doubt benefits from some of that. But I mean, there's going to be, that's the detractors. There's going to be David West supporters out there as well who are going to point to his work ethic and his talent and believe that he is absolutely a big man going forward. Another guy that I would look at, a big man as well, that we can look at together here. How about a Marc Gasol? Marc Gasol also going to be a very sought-after, Powell's brother, a very sought-after free agent. 26 years young, Marc Gasol. And if you saw the recent Sports Talk where we looked at the historic play of NBA centers and we saw that the legends really get their careers going to legendary status around the age of 28 years old. So Gasol, really just a youngster when it comes to this big man game in the NBA. Gasol, I mean, he's an absolute 12-point, 8 rebounds per game machine. He's a shot blocking threat as well, very legitimate shot blocker. He will be absolutely welcome back in Memphis. The word is that Gasol looking for a bigger market than what, all due respect, and what Memphis has to offer. I think that this could be a very interesting guy out there because we know that the Knicks are in desperate need of an upgrade at center. So are the Miami Heat, both in desperate need of an upgrade at center. Both of those teams as well have the assets to put together a sign and trade with Memphis. I mean, you look at Billups' contract with the Knicks, that could get it done. And Mike Miller with the Miami Heat, that contract could get it done as well in a swap. So very, very interesting there. Gasol, I think, is going to be one of the names that's bantied around as one of the more interesting names this summer. Another big man, so for somebody who, if you miss out on the West and Gasol sweepstakes, well, there's a poor man's big man in here as well, and some Canadian content for us, folks. How about Sam Dalembert? I'm a big Dalembert fan. I mean, this is about 7 years in a row now where he's giving you 8 points and 8 rebounds extremely consistently every single night. This guy is a shot-blocking threat on every possession, plays very, very good defense. I like Dalembert a lot. I'm a fan of this guy. I think that the Toronto Raptors would be a team that, with Valanciunas a year away, I think the Raptors would be a team that would be very interested in a guy like Dalembert, and a lot of teams out there as well. I mean, the Spurs, the Sixers, we can imagine that there'll be several NBA teams kicking tires on Dalembert, especially, again, if you do lose out on the David West or Marc Gasol sweepstakes. Taking it to a smaller player, if the big man is not what your team needs or is looking for, how about a instant scoring threat in Jamal Crawford? Again, we looked at some big men that will be sought after. Here's a scoring guard that will be sought after. Jamal Crawford has shown that he can be effective coming off the bench. Man, what an asset that is in the NBA to have an instant scorer off the bench like Crawford. Now, the one thing that's interesting about Crawford is Crawford himself believes that he should be receiving a huge payday because he is such an asset, a threat coming off the bench offensively. But the thing that the teams that could really use him the most, like the Miami Heat, there are several teams that just don't have the money to pay him what he likely is going to want. Would Jamal Crawford go to Miami and play with LeBron James for a mid-level exception? Would he go to Portland and play with LaMarcus Aldridge for a mid-level exception? I mean, hard to say. If he wants to win, yes. But if you hear the things that Jamal Crawford and his camp has been saying, it sounds like he wants to be paid. So we'll see what happens there. Somebody's about to get some instant offense off their bench with Crawford. I mean, we do know that. Tayshaun Prince. Speaking of instant offense, how about Tayshaun Prince? Under the radar as far as a very, very, very consistent scorer in the NBA. I mean, I would look at a team like the Clippers. The Clippers are about $12 million under the cap right now. They could use a small forward. Maybe Orlando would be looking at somebody like this as well. How about right here in Toronto? You think the Raptors would be interested in a Tayshaun Prince? I believe so, absolutely. He's got a unique skill set. He's been very consistent in his NBA career. He will be sought after as well. Another guards. So now we're going from shooting guards to point guards. If you're looking at some point guards that could give you an upgrade as well, and we know the Miami Heat will certainly be looking at guys like J.J. Barrera. Guys like T.J. Ford are out there as well. So some veteran. I mean, again, not the eye-popping names that we saw in the Summer of Fun in 2010. No, but a lot of quality depth guys available in this NBA free agency for 2011. Barea and T.J. Ford amongst them. Also several veterans out there as well that can add some depth. How about a Grant Hill? How about a T-Mac, Tracy McGrady? How about a Vince Carter? How about a Jason Richardson? I mean, a lot of Michael Redd as well. A lot of veterans out there to shore up your team going forward. So again, not the list of superstars that we saw in the 2010 Summer of Fun, no, but an absolute list of role players, and we've seen time and time again in the National Basketball Association, in particular in the playoffs. Yes, your star players have to be your best players on any given night, and in particular in a playoff run, yes, we know that's a fact, that is true. But we also know that the role players, if you're going to make a prolonged run in the National Basketball Association playoffs, your role players have to be top-notch. They have to be completely on point. The Lakers were three-peating in the West and winning back-to-back titles with sensational play from their role players. The Celtics using sensational play from their role players as well. Shout-outs as well to a big baby, Glenn Davis, from the Boston Celtics. I mean, you may not be as high on Big Baby as I am. I like him as an NBA player. He's a free agent as well. He'll get some interest out there. But again, a list of legitimate role players to help a team hopefully coming to help your team going forward. That's our look right now at the NBA free agency, some unrestricted free agents, the Sports Talk with Craig Ballard. So glad you joined me. So glad we can be talking NBA basketball again, folks. Are you kidding me? I'm ear to ear grinning, brother. So excited that the NBA is back. Hope you are too, and thank you for checking me out. Check us out again soon.